Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling what has got to be one of the most absolutely astonishing mysteries in the entire history of human engineering. I mean, we are looking at a 2,000-year-old artifact that when researchers finally figured it out, literally forced us to rewrite the history books on ancient technology. Seriously, buckle up because we're going on a wild journey from a chance discovery at the bottom of the ocean all the way to our modern mastery of ancient mechanics. So to really understand just how miraculous this whole story is, we kind of need to set the scene. Imagine this. It's the spring of 1900. A couple of Greek sponge fishing boats have to take shelter from a massive storm off the coast of a tiny, rocky island called Antikythera. When the weather finally clears, a diver goes down just for a routine sponge dive. But instead, he stumbles right into a massive ancient shipwreck scattered all across the seafloor. And amidst all these beautiful statues and coins, they pull up this totally unassuming lump of heavily corroded green rock.
Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly are these strange, crusty bronze fragments pulled from the seafloor? I mean, at first glance, they really don't look like much, do they? Eventually, that original lump split apart into 82 distinct fragments. They were super brittle, crusted over with ocean debris, and completely oxidized. But, and here's the crazy part, hidden right inside these unimpressive rock-like shells was a secret that had literally been waiting centuries to be uncovered.
And this brings us to a seriously mind-bending question. Was this intricate little device, dating all the way back to the 2nd century BC, actually the world's first portable computer? It sounds like straight-up science fiction, right? But as researchers began to look closer at those green fragments, they found tiny, perfectly formed triangular gear teeth, mysterious Greek inscriptions, and all these complex dials. And the whole shebang was packed into this incredibly compact, portable wooden box.
The shipwreck discovery.
Mapping out this incredible journey, we actually have to start with the ship itself. It was a Roman vessel that sank somewhere between 75 and 50 BC. Fast forward nearly 2 millennia to 1900, which is when our sponge divers made that fateful discovery. The recovery didn't just stop there, though. In 1976, the legendary oceanographer Jacques Cousteau brought his famous ship, the Calypso, to excavate the wreck even further. And all of this fascination culminated in 2012, when the National Archaeological Museum in Athens finally presented almost all the shipwreck's finds together in their proper context.
This incredible historic photograph really grounds the whole story in reality. It shows the actual dive boats and crew involved in that initial 1900 recovery. You know, it was a sponge diver named Ilias Stadiatis who first spotted the wreck, and his captain Dimitrios Kantos who immediately alerted the authorities. The Hellenic Royal Navy actually dispatched vessels right away to help out. So what you're looking at here is the crew responsible for literally the very first coordinated underwater excavation in all of recorded history. How cool is that?
Section 2. The first analog computer.
Now, when we talk about an analog computer in the context of ancient Hellenistic engineering, we kind of have to shift our modern perspective. We're so used to thinking of computers as, digital screens and glowing microchips. But a computer, at its very core, is just a tool that computes data. This thing was a wildly complex analog machine driven entirely by gears, specifically designed to process astronomical data. You'd literally crank a handle on the side, and the internal gears calculated the exact positions of the sun and moon, predicted eclipses, and maintained these incredibly accurate calendars.
The contrast here is absolutely stark. On the left, we have that corroded, rock-like exterior we were just talking about. But on the right, that is a modern X-ray. When scientists finally managed to peer inside this thing using X-ray tomography, they were absolutely floored. Hidden right inside all that corrosion were these stunning, overlapping gear trains. And to put that into perspective, geared devices matching this level of complexity simply do not appear again in the historical record until the mechanical clocks of 13th century Europe. The ancient Greeks were basically 1,500 years ahead of schedule. Unbelievable!
Section 3. Inside the ancient gears.
To truly grasp their genius, we've got to break down something called the pin and slot mechanism. See, the ancient Greeks actually knew the moon didn't move across the sky at a constant speed because its orbit around the Earth is elliptical, not a perfect circle. So, to physically replicate that anomaly using metal gears, they used 2 eccentric gears. Step 1, a lower gear has a tiny pin that slides right into a slot on an upper gear. Step 2, as they turn together, this pin and slot connection actually forces the upper gear to rotate at a variable elliptical speed. Step 3, this brilliant epicyclical motion perfectly tracks the moon's shifting speed in the night sky. It's like a mechanical ballet.
But here is the absolute craziest part, the unbelievable precision of the ancients.
1.1 millimeters. That is the exact microscopic distance separating the axes of those two eccentric gears I just mentioned. Just over 1 single millimeter of offset is literally all it took to mathematically map the anomaly of the Moon's elliptical orbit. The fact that a craftsman sitting in a workshop in the 2nd century BC could calculate and then physically manufacture gears with that level of precision, it is just staggering.
Section 4. Decoding the dials.
Comparing the different functions of this device really reveals its true scale. On the front dial, you had these pointers tracking the exact positions of the sun and the moon through the zodiac. It even featured this tiny, rotating sphere driven by a hidden crown gear that physically displayed the current phase of the moon. Then you flip it around to the back. Here, you've got these massive spiral dials. The top spiral tracked the 19-year Metonic cycle, which is a calendar named after the Athenian astronomer Meton. The bottom spiral tracked the Saros cycle, letting them predict solar and lunar eclipses over a 223-month period. It even had a smaller callippic dial just to correct a one-day calendar error every 76 years. Talk about thorough.
But hey, this machine wasn't just for looking at the stars. It was deeply, fundamentally tied to everyday Greek culture. There was this inner dial on the back that tracked the 4-year cycles of the Panhellenic Crown Games. It literally pointed to the specific years for the games at Olympia, which of course we know today as the Olympics, as well as the Pythian, Isthmian, Nemean, and Naupatia Games. It essentially brought the entire cosmos and human society together into one beautifully unified mechanical theory.
Section 5. Rebuilding the mechanism.
Let's follow the modern science that finally cracked the code, starting back in 1990. Researchers A.G. Bromley and Michael Wright basically pioneered the use of X-rays to map the interior. By 1998, we had the very first computer simulation. Wright kept at it, and by 2005, he suggested a model that included all 5 known ancient planets. But a massive game-changing breakthrough came from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, or AUTH. By 2011, their team designed a functional model from scratch that was incredibly, like 97%, identical to the ancient fragments. And by 2016, they were building these amazing, transparent, large-scale models to show the entire world exactly how it worked.
And the final culmination of all that century-long obsession is this beautifully recreated functional brass model. I mean, look at it. It is an absolute masterpiece. This stunning replica proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Hellenistic mechanicians were light years ahead of what our surviving written history ever inferred. They fundamentally understood advanced mathematics, complex planetary astronomy, and precision machining, and they wrapped the whole thing up into a beautiful wooden and bronze case.
Which leaves us with a final, and honestly pretty thrilling question to ponder. If an ancient Greek laptop was sitting completely undetected in a shipwreck for 2,000 years, what other lost marvels of ancient technology are still waiting down there at the bottom of the sea? The Antikythera Mechanism is proof that history is absolutely not just a straight line from primitive to advanced. It's full of these incredible, forgotten peaks of genius. So keep questioning the past, and until next time, keep exploring.